Vice President Kamala Harris was in Detroit, Michigan today, one of several visits she's making to the critical swing state this week. She just finished a live town hall with the popular nationally syndicated radio show The Breakfast Club, co-hosted by Charlamagne the God. It's part of her amped-up media blitz to reach out to black male voters.
It's two very different visions for our nation. One mind that is about taking us forward and progress and investing in the American people, investing in their ambitions, dealing with their challenges. And the other, Donald Trump, is about taking us backward.
The other is about fascism. Why can't we just say it?
Yes, we can say that.
Yeah.
Joining me now is Jason Johnson, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University and host of the podcast A Word with Jason Johnson, just to prove that we actually can exist in the same place at the same time. Sometimes I got to get you on here, brother, because I know sometimes we swap out. But let's talk about this, because there are some people who are going like, why would she go on Charlamagne, or she's apparently going to go on Joe Rogan's podcast. Let me just put up the numbers. She's going on them because that's where the people are. These are the top podcasts among black weekly listeners. Number one is Rogan. Number two is The Breakfast Club. We're talking about, what, 11 some odd million people. That's why she's there, right?
Right. Well, yeah, Joy, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I think last time I looked at numbers, like literally the number of black listeners that Joe Rogan has is larger than I think the entire audience of Charlamagne. Like, he's that big. And look, it's a great movie. It's also good campaign strategy. Everywhere, everything, all at once, right? Like, the best way to win is by going where people are, communicating in different kinds of environments, and hoping that important segments end up getting broken down into little pieces here and there. I am old enough to remember a time when going on Howard Stern as a presidential candidate would seem controversial. Now he's tame. I had to explain to my Morgan students who Howard Stern was, right? But I know that he matters to Generation X and boomers. So, you know, what Harris is doing right now, it makes a tremendous amount of sense. She is trying to recreate the moment that she had in the burst that she had in the polls right after beating Trump. So if she can go on Fox and handle Bret Baier, if she can go on with Joe Rogan and charm him, she may not win over any voters, but she may activate independents or make people decide that she is better than staying home on the couch.
Right, and I think the thing is, it's showing that she's not afraid to go into what people might perceive as hostile audiences. I thought it was very smart. The Call Her Daddy podcast used to be connected to Barstool Sports. As you said, she's going on with Bret Baier. She's going on Fox. You know, she's going on with Charlamagne, who's somebody who, look, that is the morning show a lot of black folks listen to in the morning. And I think one of the great things about it is not only did she get an interview with from Charlamagne himself, but she also took questions from the audience, which I think is important. Right. Let me play just one bite here. This is Vice President Harris, and this is about outreach to black men, and this is her taking a call.
What would you say to the people that would consider the timing of this proposal as political timing? And how would you speak to the sentiment that support for black men is only sought out during election cycles?
I've been in this race about 70 days. You can look at all my work before those 70 days to know that what I'm talking about right now is not new and is not for the sake of winning this election. This is about a long-standing commitment, including the work that I've done as vice president and before when I was senator and before that.
I also love that she did a question in which she called out her pastor, Reverend Amos Brown, who I actually interviewed for my Medgar Evers book because he was like a teenage Medgar Evers acolyte when he was a kid back in Mississippi. But, I mean, that's the kind of realness that I think helps her with people who might otherwise sit on the couch.
Look, I'll be honest with you, Joy. When Vice President Harris was on the All the Smoke podcast, I basically felt like I was in the room with her. Like, she actually does very, very well. Her sort of retail politics skills are fantastic. But I also think this, and this is a really key disinformation thing that needs to be put out there. I know for a fact, because of sources that I have and sources that you have, that the Harris campaign had been working on a plan for black men long before this rollout. You can't come up with these things in 15 minutes. If you come up with a plan for black people in 15 minutes, you know what you end up with? The Platinum Plan, right? That nonsense that Donald Trump came up with 4 years ago. This actually required policy. This actually required effort. And I'll also add this, because I think this is really important. no matter what you may think of this plan, no matter what you may think of how it can be implemented, you cannot argue that from a policy perspective that Donald Trump is offering more to African-American men or African-American women than the Kamala Harris campaign is. It's just not true. And what she's offering are things that will help black people. And for the bad faith people out there who are like, well, it's not exclusive for black men. Hey, the Supreme Court said it's illegal to pass laws that only target one group of people and exclude others. So of course it has to be available for anybody, but it's still targeted at black men.
The other thing I think she's offering people is respect. You know, I mean, I think the fact that she's going to Charlamagne to ask for black men's votes, the fact that she's going to Joe Rogan's audience to say, hey, you may not be naturally my supporters, but I want to ask for your vote. The fact that she's doing rural outreach today, it just shows respect for these various groups that says, I am trying to be everybody's president because I respect you enough to offer you something concrete and ask you for your vote.
Well, also, Joy, it's just good campaigning. Look, we have seen a contrast, and we've talked about this before. You've got one campaign where a guy is swinging in the wind. I'm sorry, when we saw Mitch McConnell do this, we called it something else. But when an older man seems to lose himself for minutes at a time and won't do interviews and won't sit down with people, you would think that Donald Trump would have been calling into Joe Rogan for the last 4 or 5 years, but he doesn't. The fact that Harris is recognizing I got to fight for every single vote is a testament to the strength of her campaign.
Absolutely. And I think people really need to think about if you want to have a president that every so often is just going to do and everybody just stop. Like, I'm not sure we want that in the White House next to the nuclear codes. People need to think about it. Jason Johnson, thank you very much. Much appreciated.